please do check out my other channel I run with fellow grumpy dad, Chris, the Grumpy Dads. We interview lots of amazing people and talk about the world as it is, so please do check that out. Hi, and welcome to another episode of PDA Dads UK. Before we go on, can you please go hit subscribe, hit like, and ring the bell so that you know when I've got new content coming up. I've got loads of great episodes coming up. I want to talk this week about ourselves as carers. This has come about because I've recently become an ambassador for my local carers charity called Devon Carers. There are carers charities all over the country, but obviously being in Devon, that's where I've gone. And this came about due to my own state of mind, and that's really what I want to look at, is where we're at and the pressure that's put on us as carers. It's a little understood thing. So a lot of people see carers as having the easy life in a way, that you're just home, you're not having to go out and do your job, do a full-time job, you're not having to, work for what you're getting. And it's just so far from the truth. And I wanted to talk about the mental impact that all this has on us as carers. So at the end of 2019, after the summer holidays, I was about as close to burnout as I've been. And I've talked in a previous episode about how it's important for us to look after ourselves, making sure we've got some time in the day that we spend for ourselves. It's incredibly hard to do, but it's really, really important. And I think it's been exacerbated over the last 12 months with lockdowns, with COVID restrictions, schools not being open, so many different aspects that are contributing to the pressure and the work that we actually have placed upon us. So to give you a bit of detail, I'm a carer for my daughter who is autistic and is obviously pathological demand avoidant, along with SPD, ADHD, and a whole bunch of sort of issues that go on that all relate back to autism. They're all co-diagnosed. I'm also a carer for my wife, who has bipolar disorder and epilepsy and a bunch of other bits and pieces that are going on. And it puts a lot of pressure on the whole situation for us as carers when we're caring. And I've got my son as well, and we all are in a situation where generally we've not just got the one person we're caring for. It's a job that expands into other caring responsibilities, and some of them are just responsibilities that we all have as parents. I'm not trying to make it seem like that there's something that's out of place with that, but it becomes a real challenge when these things compile on themselves. So mental health's been a big issue over the last 12 months, and we've seen it's been drawn attention to in the media and stuff like that. You've got ITV, you've got the Get Britain Talking thing and all that stuff going on. But the reality is there's just so much pressure being put on at the moment, and a lot of people, whether they're carers or not, are really struggling with their mental health at the moment, simply because of the pressure and the situation that we're under. It's unprecedented. We haven't had anything like this before. There's never been a global pandemic like this. We've had epidemics. We never had a pandemic. For us in the UK, we're still here in lockdown. It's been 12 months and lockdown's been eased and then brought back in again, and they've had tier systems, and nobody really knows where they stand with the whole situation. And for us, it's provided a lot of pressure, and this is what happened at the end of 2019 as well. We'd had the school holidays, and my daughter had been home for 7 weeks straight. And I really was finding it hard to cope, aside from the issues that my wife has, and that she can only take so much before it really starts dramatically affecting her mental health. My daughter love my daughter with all my heart, and all I want to do is see her well, but she's very challenging when she's around, and this is something that people don't really sort of understand unless you are a carer for a child with extra needs in that way. The pressures that come with it are really, really difficult. You love your kids, you want the best for them, but when you're day in, day out having to deal with the behavioural issues that can come, and PDA has a wealth of behavioural issues that accompany it. I spoke in my last episode about how we deal with violence and aggression constantly. Now, it's not my daughter's fault. It's part of her who she is with being PDA and her autism. And it's just such a challenge to be around it day in, day out without a break. And we can't leave our daughter to like go to your room and have a play. She can't do that because it just results in, oh, we've had bathrooms trashed, we've come in and found toothpaste all over the place, or she'll put stuff in bed, she sort of sneaks around and does her thing, and you come up and it's just like, oh, we can't really leave my daughter unmonitored. Even more so if our son's home as well, because she can become aggressive, as we've discussed before, and if she's aggressive, then that's putting him at risk. And he's half her age, she's 10, he's 5, and obviously there's a size difference there, and it's just not fair on him. So we really do have to keep the whole situation constantly monitored. And when you've had that for 7 weeks on the trot, it was just for some reason a longer summer holidays than we generally have. It's sort of 6 weeks. I was absolutely spent. I hadn't had a break. I hadn't had any real time alone, and my mental health had really dipped. And I knew it. I could sense it. I knew that I was in a bad place. And somebody suggested I reach out to my local carers charity, and that's what I did. I hopped on the phone and gave them a call, and I was amazed. And what they did was basically arrange for a meeting with me. This was pre-COVID at that point, so I went in, we had a meeting, and they just did what's called a carer's health and wellbeing assessment, and they went through just where I'm at, what was going on, and then they looked for ways they could help. Now, I'm officially the carer for my wife, so they did it from an adult carer perspective. They can do that. If you're a registered carer for your child, then that's great, and they can also include that. What they were able to do is look at the situation that I was in, and then assess it, go through what they could do to help and support me in that. And one of the first things they did was send an occupational therapist out to just assess how the home was and if there was anything they can contribute there. And one of the things that was pretty quickly established was that the bathroom wasn't suitable for my wife's needs. With epilepsy, you've always got that constant risk of a seizure taking place. You've also got issues with my wife has some hip issues. Getting in and out of the bath was particularly painful, and we didn't have a shower installed at that point. And so she went back to Devon Carers, and then they organised for the bathroom to be redone so that it was fit for purpose for the disabilities that my wife has and the challenges that she has with that. And they've been able to come out and put in a bath with one of the doors, which I panic about. I don't know if you've ever seen that scene in Paddington Bear where he comes surfing out of the bathroom on the bath because it's flooded. I worry about that, the bath being full and one of the kids just opening the door and out it all comes, and we're just going to have to deal with that. Hasn't happened yet. Touch wood, fingers crossed. It doesn't happen again. It doesn't happen at any point. But that's the fear. But they've been able to put a shower in. The bathroom floor's been redone with a proper non-slip surface. They just assessed everything, and they went through the whole house and did that. We've had grab rails put in at the front, and it was all able to be funded because I'd gone to Devon Carers for that support. The other side of it was they looked at, well, what do you do to look after yourself? I go to the gym. I enjoy the gym. I never used to. It's one of those things that's come later in life, and I wish I'd done it all along, but obviously gyms are closed at the moment. But one of the things they established is that I enjoy the gym, and they were able to get some support so that I could go to the gym for 12 months, and they'd taken care of it. It's all done through grants and the fact that it's a charity and they have access to certain pools and funds, and it was amazing. I wasn't expecting any of this. All I was really going in for was to say I'm struggling, what I need something to help me get through this, because obviously, and this is something that has come about again recently for me. I had kidney stones recently. For my female viewers, I've been reliably informed I can understand childbirth now, and I don't ever want to go through it again. I don't know how you do it voluntarily. It is unbelievable. But yeah, the pain of kidney stones, unreal. But I had to go into hospital, and I was ambulanced at that point because I was in a really bad way. They hit really suddenly, and there was talk of I may need to be operated on to put a stent in so that they can remove the kidney stones. And it was suddenly a whole lot more I had to deal with. It's not like it's difficult for any family when somebody's taken out of the picture, but when you're the main carer and you're the main responsibility, the weight of that really sits heavy on your shoulders. And suddenly it wasn't a case of, well, okay, yeah, we'll organise it, how's it all, it should all be fine. It was suddenly, okay, well, how's this going to work? We need to, and we're talking within COVID lockdown restrictions and all that kind of stuff. Is somebody going to be able to come in and do my role while I'm there? How are we going to function with the care aspects that come as part of my role as a full-time carer? There's suddenly a lot more red tape that's in the way, complications that are in the way of me being able to go in and just simply have a quick operation. And it was only a simple procedure, but it would have wiped me out for a few days and would have obviously meant that I'd have issues here at home. And it just really hit home. Part of what the Devon carers did for me was that they were able to organise a care plan that I'd actually had in place previously. I get a carer's card and that stays in my wallet. So if anything were to happen to me, if I was in an accident or something like that, I can be identified as a carer, and then there's a care plan. So my mother-in-law gets notified and the process is put into place to ensure that my role as a carer is able to be continued while I'm incapacitated. We matter as people, and it's something to do with being a carer. You somehow go down the list, especially as a parent carer, because your priority is your kids, your priority is your family. I heard it said once that becoming the head of a family or the responsible person within a family isn't about suddenly having all this control and being in charge. It's actually about what are you going to sacrifice today to make sure everybody else is in a better place. And that's kind of what we do when we put ourselves down the list of priority. It's necessary in many ways, but it's also something that is not the right way to go about things. We need to prioritize ourselves as well, and it sucks because it feels really selfish. It's not. I've had to come to terms with learning that it's not selfish to take time out for me. And I've spoken about it before, and it's one of those things that I like to bring up because I think it's such an apt description and a great metaphor for what the situation is with being prepared to look after ourselves. And that's when I've been on planes, there's always the talk at the beginning, and it's like, here's the exits, and toilets are here, here's what's doing an emergency, put your head down between your knees and all that kind of stuff. Make sure your seats are upright. One of the things that they tell you is that there's oxygen masks that may drop down from above you. And they say when they drop down, secure your own mask first before you secure those of any children or people that you're responsible for. And the reason they do that is because if you're incapacitated, they're left helpless. And it's the same situation when we come into just our general lives. If we allow ourselves to become such a low priority that our mental health dips to a level that we're unable to function, or our health in general dips to a level that we're unable to function, then we're not there suitably to be responsible and supportive for our families. So we secure our own masks first. And that can be just taking 20 minutes of the evening to make sure that you've got time for yourself. I tend to just stay up a bit late in bed and just read or watch something on Netflix or whatever. Just that 20 minutes at the end of the day that just lets me decompress from everything that's happened. I also, as I say, when we weren't in lockdown, I go to the gym. That's really important time for me, and that was obviously what Devon Carers identified. That's where I take care of not just my physical health, but my mental health, because exercise produces all those endorphins and serotonin that actually improves our mental health. But that's time that I'm able to just focus on me and put myself as a priority. And it was great because I was able to just go drop my son to school and then go to the gym, and then I could come home and resume my responsibilities here. And that's obviously not happening at the moment because of lockdown, but it's such an important time. Finding those things that help you to be you are really important, and it's not always easy. There's a lot of single parents out there who have to struggle with this without having somebody else to fall back on. Finding 20 minutes to just take to yourself isn't easy if you've got kids that aren't sleeping properly, which a lot of autistic kids will have struggle with sleep patterns. We've spoken about that before. Trying to find that time, and I was speaking to somebody on my other channel, the Grumpy Dads, and we were interviewing a lady there called Abby, and she was saying that she just even though she's dog tired, she will take that time in the evening where, even if it's at 1 a.m, she'll make sure she's got that 20 minutes where she just sits down and has her time before going to sleep, because that decompression time is more important than that 20 minutes of sleep. So working it into your day is just so important, and I can't recommend it enough. You need to do that. You need to find the thing that you... Reaching out for help can be really difficult. I'm this kind of person that I don't like to admit that I'm struggling. So making that call to Devon Carers at the beginning was really difficult for me, because to say that I'm struggling was kind of admitting some kind of failure. Well, that's how it felt. It wasn't. That's how it felt to me. I wasn't failing, and in fact, and this is a key thing, we're not failing when we reach out for help. In fact, it takes courage and it takes strength, and it's not selfish and it's not weak. It's counterintuitive, an oxymoron if you like, but it's true. It takes real strength to reach out and ask for that help. I'm very lucky that we've got great parents between myself and my wife. My mother-in-law is a fantastic support, and if we're ever really in need, she steps up and she'll take a trip down and make sure that we've got what we need. Obviously, again, COVID hasn't helped that situation, and it's made it a lot more challenging. But there are exceptions that are allowed, and that's one of those situations. So again, it's something Devon Carers helped me with, was to establish that we can do that and have certain documents in place that allow us to do that if necessary, as long as it's necessary. It's not something you can abuse as part of the system, but it's good to know that there's an option there, that if we really need it, we can bring my mother-in-law down and she can come and help us, because she has that authority to be able to travel and to come into our home without breaking any rules. And again, my mother is amazing as well. She lives a lot further away, but she's a Samaritan. She does a lot of work with helping people through their mental health and stuff, and it's just great to know that I can call my mum, and my wife does the same. She'll talk to my mum quite readily, and if we're struggling, she's just the ideal person to speak to. She's trained in how to respond to these situations, how to help people, and she spent her life as a minister's wife, and I think she's heard everything from that role. You tend to think of ministers' wives as very meek and very conservative, but Mum is not like that. She's heard everything, because when you're in that role, you're dealing with people in real lives. She's had to do a lot of supporting of people, and she's just about heard everything, so there's not much that shocks her anymore. It's just really good to know that there are those options there. And if you've got family that's around you, it's not weak reaching out and asking for help. Now, I've done videos in the past about how families and friends can be supportive of carers and parents of people who have additional needs. I really recommend having a look at that and showing it to friends and family. And if you're a relative or a friend of somebody who is in this position, watch it. And I went through the things that you can do to be really supportive. The link will be in the description. Please do check it out. It can be really hard to understand from the outside what it's like. It's one of those things, the group I run on Facebook, we run because people don't, and it's not a criticism, you can't understand what it's like inside the box until you've been there. I spoke on the Grumpy Dads podcast just this last week. It's the video we put up this week with a guy called Simon. And he was, working with people who were disabled and in a wheelchair, and he ended up becoming disabled and wheelchair bound himself. And he said that you think you understand, but until I was put in that position, I had no idea. I could spend as much time around people with disability and with mobility issues as I liked. Until you've lived it, you just don't understand. I wouldn't, touch wood, I'll never know what it's like to be in a wheelchair. I certainly don't know at this point. I've had no experience of it. I've known people in wheelchairs, and I can kind of see. It's like, I think it's like I can look at a map of Thailand and look at photos of Thailand and say, I understand Thailand. But until you stood on a Thai beach, until you've walked through the markets and seen the scenery and experienced it, you don't understand it. I'm Australian, and I can talk about Australia and tell you all the wonderful things about Australia and all the scary things about the animals that want to kill you all the time. But until you've lived there, you can't appreciate it. You can't be in that box. And it's the same until you've experienced life as a parent or carer of somebody with additional needs. You don't understand the pressures, because it doesn't start at 9 and end at 5. Or if you're diligent, it doesn't start at 8 and end at 6. It starts at 4 a.m. when my daughter gets up. It ends at 10 p.m. when she finally gets to sleep. And in between that, I've got my wife to make sure is looked after. You know, she needs a lot of rest, so making sure that she's able to get those things, it's just really diligent. It means that I've got a lot of responsibilities that are placed on me, and you know, I can't understand what my wife goes through. I can appreciate it, I can empathize, but I can't sympathize with it. I can't feel it myself. That's something I know how to do, but I can do my best to put myself as far in that box as possible and understand and be an understanding husband and carer and make sure that she's looked after in the way that she needs. There are carers charities all over the country. Whatever area you're in, there will be a charity that is able to do exactly what Devon Carers did for me. If you just hit Google and just type in carers support charity and then your area, so for me it was Devon, and hit search, there will come up. There's carers hubs, there's lots of different options. You can also usually contact your local council and they should have links. The great thing about the Devon Care is that not all carers charities have the luxuries, but they're actually supported by the Devon Council. So there's lots of things wrong with how diagnosis and stuff goes on in Devon. But one thing they're getting really right at the moment is that they are really reaching out to ensure that carers are being looked after, because they've recognised it's a really important thing. And carers aren't mooching from the system. Carers save billions of pounds every year, because to pay someone to do my job, if they were qualified and were doing it full time, would cost 10 times what I get paid. I'm not taking from the system, I'm actually saving the system money, and that was explained because I struggled with that early on. I really struggled with the fact that I was going from always having been in full-time paid work to suddenly being in this carer's role. And again, it was Devon Carers really helped me to see I'm a carer. That is my job now. That is what I do, and it's not mooching from the system. You are supporting the system. It's just so important. Your mental health matters more than ever at the moment. Our mental health is really, really important. If you're struggling, do see your GP. Do reach out to someone, reach out to friends, reach out to family. You don't have to go into tremendous amounts of detail, but just acknowledging that it's there is a step toward really helping yourself through that. And it's so important because you're so important. Do look up carers charities. If you're in Devon, I really do strongly recommend Devon Carers. They were incredible for me, to the point that I've recently become an ambassador for them, because I don't know how I'd have got through the last 12 months without the support they've been able to provide me. Not all carers charities are as good, but they will all be there to try and help. And just being able to reach out and talk to somebody makes a huge, huge difference. It's all I want to say for that, but if you're struggling, as I say, please reach out for help. Please do like this video. Please do subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. There's new content going up all the time. I want to say thank you to everyone, because I hit my 1,000 subscribers this week, and it was a huge deal. I came down there on Sunday morning and the kids had organised a little party to celebrate, and it was just really sweet. But thank you to everyone who subscribed. Please do continue to subscribe. It really makes a difference to how these videos get sent out by algorithms that YouTube run, and people get to see it. And I just want people to be able to get the support and help they need. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you next time.